Now, Nigeria has enjoyed 23 years of unbroken democracy since independence. Although the road remains bumpy, there's still the belief that things will get better as it progresses. Nigeria's security challenges over the past few years have been a cause for concern in Nigeria, with bandits spraying villages with bullets, killing residents in certain buildings ablaze, rampant cattle rustling, and clashes between farmers and herders, mass kidnappings for ransom, to say the least. The elections have come and gone, and now the attacks have seemingly increased, and the situation getting worse. It's been said that the terrorists are trying to twist the hands of the opposition and force them into negotiating what needs to be done to put an end to all of this. Now, the military under former President Buhari has seen a boost with various gains and upgrades to its gears and formations. Well, for more on this, I'm joined in the studio by a former Director of Army Public Relations, retired Brigadier General Sani Usman. Good to see you, and thanks for your time. Happy Democracy Day.
Thank you so much, and happy Democracy Day.
It's always an interesting thing when I see a military officer or someone. They say once an army officer is also an army, always an army officer. We'll talk about democracy. The fear then would have been, many Nigerians thought that the military, they don't like democracy. That is why they always then, before 1999, would want to come and usurp. Let us in on how it's been like within the military circle and what you also experienced leading up to our democracy.
I think far from it, because the military tends to fare better under democratic governance.
I would like you to say that again. The military
fares better.
Fares better
under democratic governance. And why am I saying so? There are a lot of reasons. First and foremost, democracy gives them the latitude to optimize. And when you are even making comparative analysis during military administration, you are not even so sure about yourself. There were instances, issues about basic regimentations, training exercises were all banned simply because of the fear that you'll be tagged as a coup plotter. In fact, there were instances where gathering of military have been reduced to 3. If you are more than 3, it is assumed that you are onto something and to what. And to the credits of the last administration, ask anybody, the last time the military had military equipment procured for them by the government was during the Shagari administration.
In the early 80s?
Yes. In the early 80s. That's about 40
Because I recall
you
were a spokesperson then, especially on the General Burata. Are you saying that most of those equipment you were fighting the terrorists and the bandits with were things procured in the early 80s?
Except for the T-72s that were newly acquired, but every other thing else was in the 80s. So basically, that is the starting point. And the issue of training, the issue of equipment, the issue of professionalism, and except for the bureaucratic aspect of the procurement process, which is common with democratic governance. And that is why if you even want to start from the beginning, 23 years ago, I think we had one of the shortest transition programs because the military was so determined to bequeath a lasting legacy. Hence, General Abdul Salam was able to quickly transit from military administration to a democratically elected government in May 1999. And thankfully, we have uninterrupted democratic governance today, and will continue to have, simply because there were things that were put in place. First and foremost, despite all that, there was a transformation process, a 15-year program to further reorient the military on the nuances of democracy and subordinate it to democratic governance. From 2000 to 2015, we had transformation process and, attitudinal change and all the rest. Well, you may which to criticize that you cannot transform in isolation with the Nigerian society. Ideally, during the transition program, we should also reorient the Nigerian society on the nuances of democratic governance. Because critics have pointed out the ethno-religious crisis we have had in the early 2000s were a byproduct of bent-up emotion because people were not too satisfied with, the way things were going on and what have you. Who could have? But eventually, we are progressing. Now, the military has fared better in the sense that look at the contribution. And look at even the internal security challenges that we're having, to a large extent, which are uncalled for and unnecessary. Because to a large extent, they are byproduct of whether we like it or not, inaction and action that borders on governance. But yet they rose to the challenge. Let's even look at the issue of Boko Haram terrorism. When you compare it, within the last 13 years, where you had instances that even here, the center of Abuja was not safe. But eventually they were able to deal decisively with it. Look at the number of checkpoints and all the rest. I'm trying to compare that with, let's say, other countries like Colombia that fought insurgency for 58 years. And we have seen what happened in Afghanistan. We have seen what happened in Iraq and what have you. With the sophistication and the latest technology associated with developed countries, Nigeria was able to, and to a large extent you attribute that to the security forces, which the military played a leading role. And thankfully, again, every day we keep on improving in the sense that there were emphasis actually on kinetic aspect, more boots on the ground as compared to non-kinetic aspect, which require a whole society approach to some of these security challenges. And we are moving towards that. Hence the achievement thus far.
I think the first time I made Malam Isa Yuguda make a promise, but this time the promise, I'm making you a promise. We'll have you come back again because I'm seeing what we can pack because of the time lost on the show. So I'd like to thank you for your time, General Usman, for coming.
Thank you so much.